Sally, welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. What time is it? Are you in the UK right now?
I am. It's 4 p.m. and it's about as dark as 10 p.m. out there.
4 p.m. Okay, yeah, it's starting to
Let's
get dark
start with
already.
the weather. Yeah.
Yeah, luckily it's where I am in New York City. It doesn't get dark till 8:30 at night right now, which I'm so grateful for because earlier, later in the year, it gets dark at 4, and I'm like, what's happening? Am I still human? So, Sally, I read a bit about your bio there. Before we jump in, please I'd love to hear a bit more about your story, about your journey getting to where you are, becoming a people brand strategist and how you define that. What is a personal brand in today's professional landscape? Some people might have no idea what we're even talking about right now. So give me the tea. What's happening?
I think personal brand these days is a widely misunderstood term that's thrown around in most organizations. But from a personal aspect, strategy came first for me. I
Mm,
became a strategic thinker before brand was even a thing in the world of work. And it came from wanting a better life,
mm,
wanting a different life. And my early life versus the life that I live today and the life that I would like to go on to live in the future, the gap was so big that there was no other choice but strategy
mm,
and ambition.
mm.
I think if you're walking a linear path or you're walking through doors that are open for you, or there are natural next steps, or you have the support mechanisms around you, you simply need a to-do list or a plan and some goals, and you'll get there. But with strategy, you need to go to that biggest possible version. And if where you are today is too far away from that, you're going to need to apply strategy in order to get there in the most effective way possible. And I think, when you want to do those small things, it's obvious. But if you think about your career, and if I think about my career as a book, there are so
Mm.
many storylines, there are so many characters, so many chapters. Maybe it's a trilogy.
Best-selling trilogy.
People will always, as much as I wish they wouldn't, people will always judge that book by its cover. And when it comes to your career, and when it comes to applying strategy to your career, the great news is you get to decide the name of that book and you get to decide what you put on that cover. So from my own personal journey, I had to apply strategy first. Brand came into it later, and we'll go on to talk about some of the career brand aspects. But essentially, personal brand, professional brand, leadership brand, career brand, founder brand, whatever label you want to put on it, is the public perception of the professional version of yourself, nothing more. And it's a
Yeah.
feeling, it's an emotion, it's
Mm.
what you leave others with and what they then go on to say about you, which makes it rather hard to understand if you don't have a framework that says this is what brand is. Branding
Yeah.
is marketing, which is often confused with personal branding. But yeah, the brand is the feeling, it's the emotion, and it's how you leave others feeling, and it's not about you at all.
I love that. It's about putting the priority on them rather than you.
Yeah. I work with a lot of speakers as well, and it's the same when people are on stage, they often go onto stage thinking it's all about them and let's talk about me, and all the things I did. The audience is the most important part in that equation. How you
Hmm.
leave them feeling, what they then go on to say about you, who they recommend you to. It's never about you. So although it is called personal brand, it really doesn't need to be that personal.
I love that. I have an acting background as well, so I spent a lot of time on stage. And when you're doing, let's say, a speech or a monologue in acting terms, or if you're doing a speech to a crowd, they're your scene partner, right? And you're trying to evoke something with them, and it's a dialogue, really. It's never just a speech, is it?
No, no, it's always about the audience. And it's
Yeah.
the same with, deliberately building a strategic brand around your career.
Mm,
The path is yours to walk, but the brand itself is always about others.
Yes. I'm curious. So we're talking a little bit about, we're going to get into strategy as well. Tell me a little bit about what's behind you right now. I see some strategy happening.
Working is the workings of people's minds with post-it notes over bits that are confidential.
Oh, okay. Good thing it's blurry.
Nothing to get excited about. It's just the world I live in. Sometimes they stretch all the way down the hall.
That is so cool. Well, I just love seeing that because it's an insight into your world of how you work, and I love that it's a visual experience for you, it looks like.
I'm a visual person, so you know, despite doing a lot of the work these days online,
Sure.
the way my brain pieces bits together, because I'm always pulling, everyone always has their own answers. So I'm always pulling out of what they say to pull it back together into something that is more compelling for others.
Yeah, I love that. Do
No,
you,
that's how
so
my
it's
brain works.
visceral. What's that?
That's how my brain works.
That's how your brain works. Do you ever
Yeah.
switch it over to like the digital version with like no, you
No,
do it all
my team
again.
do. My team are always presenting me with Miro boards and
Yeah.
Zoom boards and all sorts of boards. But yeah, when I'm working with clients, this is how my brain works.
Sally's got the real board, the 3D
Yeah.
board.
Just showing my age, Hunter.
No, no, not at all. I love it. I love it. It's so much cooler. I mean, I need physical notes as well too, so I completely identify. That's why I'm so excited by it. So let's talk a bit about brand strategy. What are important career tools, and is there a framework that makes it easy for people to understand? And is that framework the board I'm looking at behind you right now?
No, it's not. It's not this. Don't look at this. I may blur it if it's becoming distracting.
No, no,
Uh,
no, no. I'm just teasing.
no, I think, you know, your brand, your professional brand is the most valuable career tool that you have because it's the one thing in your career, regardless of a change in circumstances, a redundancy, a
Mm,
pandemic, you know, all the things that you could line up that are 100% outside of your control.
yeah,
Your brand is always 100% in your control. Not what people do with it, but what you put out there. And because it's that emotion, it's that feeling, and it's quite difficult to wrap your head around where does that begin and where does that end.
mm,
The framework, if you think of it in the context of a shop or a store on a busy shopping street that you're familiar with, everyone can visualize a shop or storefront near them. That you are that shop. That's you in your career. You're running the business, it's your real estate, and the shop window is the first impressions.
mm,
Whether that's you showing up and having a conversation with someone, or it's a LinkedIn profile, you showing up online, somebody mentioning you, and somebody else looks you up. Maybe they search your name in one of the search engines. People are looking in your shop window any time of day or night, and you're not even aware they're doing it. The
right.
same as when the stores are closed, they don't know that who is walking past and looking in that shop window. So if you think about the shop and then we think about that first impression, without the first impression, you don't get very far. So that would be the things that you're putting on the cover of that book.
Mm,
And what are you going to be putting on there and why are you going to be putting them on there? Because I think people's lives are incredibly busy. Work is incredibly busy. Education, everything's busy. So when it comes to putting yourself on your priority list and saying, you know what, I'm going to focus more strategically on my career path, it's never about doing more. It cannot be a vanity project because nobody has time for that.
right.
You have to think about ways to, how can I start to do more with the things that I already do?
Mm,
So you're slimming down the amount of activity sometimes, but amplifying the amount of times that that is repurposed in some way, shape, or form. But if we think about this shop window as being your first impressions, the story, the narrative, the things that you want to be known for, that's all part of your marketing. That's
mhm,
what's pulling people towards this shop. It's how they find out about you. Maybe it's through your doing or it's word of mouth, someone else talking about it. But the marketing is bringing people to the shop. And when they get to the shop, they look in the window.
Hmm.
Do they then come into the store? And do they make a purchase? Do they hire you? Do they ask you to be a guest on a podcast? Do they ask you to sit on a
Right.
panel? You know, whatever that is. Are they coming in and buying what you're selling, essentially? Because if
Hmm.
they're not, then it is simply a vanity exercise. If you then think about, you know, the marketing channels, how you're reaching people, we don't want to do all of the things. We just want to show up in the places where who's in your audience today,
Hmm.
who is that customer for the shop, and who is the future customer, and do you have them in your network already? Use the marketing channels to broadcast the things that you want to put out there in the places where your audience are already engaging. If it's professional and business, it's more than likely LinkedIn at this point. It's the best business networking that there is out there. And then collaborations. This is a collaboration. There are a bunch of people here today. They're not people that I'm going to reach individually, but by collaborating with others who have an aligned audience, you're able to get that message out to way more people than if you try and find them all individually and do everything yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, thinking about the shop, the first impressions as the window, your story as the marketing. And then you've got collaborations, which will amplify everything, and the marketing channels, which will extend your reach.
Yeah. It's such a clear roadmap to understanding how this works. And I think I appreciate you speaking to the points of putting your energy where it's going to get the best returns, as opposed to just firing on all cylinders, shooting off writing copy for platforms that your audience isn't on, right? Like that's a waste of precious time, as
Yeah.
opposed to really figuring out where that is and where to focus your energy is invaluable. Because our energy and our time, that's the most valuable thing we have.
Yeah. And I mean,
Yeah.
if you look me up on LinkedIn, I'm an introvert and I talk about it all the time because I want to pull more introverts towards me. Because if
Mm.
80% of my clients are introverts, it makes my life easier.
Yeah.
Than spending my time with 80% extroverts, I'm not going to be able to do as much.
Mm.
And it's one of the things that I want to be known for that reason. But if you look at my LinkedIn, you'd say, well, you don't post that much. You know, you're not an influencer with hundreds of thousands of followers. But actually, my profile is in the top 1% of LinkedIn profiles in the area that I'm selling to.
Mm.
And my direct messages, like all good introverts, are busy. I don't
Mm.
need the world to see what I'm doing. And I think, you know, with some of the challenges people face, it can feel really cringe putting yourself out there. It can feel really uncomfortable, like you're commoditizing yourself. Get rid of all of that.
Mm.
Plenty of other people are prepared to undersell you. You do not need to be underselling yourself as well. And this is your brand, your career, your life, your book, and you can navigate it whichever way you choose. But you are the one that needs to take responsibility for selling yourself in a way that is comfortable and that makes sense to you and your journey.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that insight about your introvertness, because I feel on things like this and putting ourselves out there, like the question can be, how do I do both? How can I be an introvert and sell myself? And just hearing about your DM strategy, that's great, right? Like that you found something that works for you.
But also, you can use that very strategically. So if you, and don't think this if I ever DM you, but if you DM somebody that you deliberately want to see a piece of content that you know is coming up, and they reply to you, the algorithm will automatically show them that next piece of content or that next post.
Oh yeah.
You can apply strategy to everything, for you know, from social media to how you get different life experiences, how you end up working with different firms that or individuals that may seem completely unreachable from where
Mm.
you are today. There is always a route to get there. It might not be conventional, it may not be linear, but there are always ways. You just need to have the big enough vision and want it enough for yourself to do this and to
Mm.
put the effort in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we learned a little bit about your process here with the DM strategy. That's just one of many, I'm sure. How do you keep your brand consistent throughout your career? And has it changed throughout the career? Have you had to make pivots?
Yeah, so, so if you think about what you want to be known for, you get to decide this. And a lot of people, at first contact will say, I want to be known for this because that's the job they're doing today.
Right.
You're a human being. You have so many different aspects to who you are. And what do you want to be doing in 5 to 10 years? Does this still make sense? So when you
Mm,
think about what you want to be known for, make a long list, make an exhaustive list, cover the walls with all the things you want to be known for, but bring it back down to 3 things, 5 things, somewhere manageable. By being known for, rather than somebody who is in a leadership role that's very specific in a certain industry today, become known for advancing things and people and industries. Be known for the advancing, not the specifics, because you're probably going to move around and change. But you should have sort of 4 or 5 pillars of, I want to be known for this 1 or 2 things professionally. Then maybe I want to be known for people or my leadership style or my characteristics, introvert. And then what matters to you? Because if it matters to you and it has mattered to you for a long time and it still matters to you today, it's probably still going to matter to you in the future.
mm,
Bring that into what you want to be known for as well. I've done it throughout my life, but I've also got a pay it forward initiative that we run every year. We work with 4 different organizations pro bono to make sure that we're paying it forward to
mm,
the organizations that matter, that are within my brand pillars of what I'm known for. So you have all these pillars, and this is what you're known for. It actually gives you content pillars at the same time. You can operate under these. If you've done 3 things this month, but you haven't covered anything on the fourth, try and do something around that. Then stick an umbrella above it. That's how it becomes consistent. So I chose to put the umbrella humans at work above all my pillars because I like to go on tangents and get involved in things, or something will tug my heartstrings and I'll be off on a pay it forward project. But by putting humans at work and being more human at work across the top of all of the things I'm known for, I can pretty much do everything that
mm,
involves people
mm-hmm,
without seeming inconsistent.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, take it up to the highest possible level, have this big thing that you're known for, and then pillars underneath it.
I love that. It reminds me of the what we all want if with a company, right? That there's this the big why that we talk about a lot, and Sam Sinek has talked about it. It's kind of like our own little personal why and how everything goes underneath of it. Would you say that's similar?
I would have a what rather than a why. My name used to be spelt with a Y, but I didn't, it was just hanging there. There's Sallee. I changed it by default and just rejigged it, so now it lines up.
It does look quite nice, I have to say. It's very pleasing. I love that. It
It's
was just hanging
mispronounced
there.
often, but yeah, it used to have a Y in it, and it's like, why? What's the point? It's just hanging there. So no,
Yeah.
I would personally go with a what, but feel free to go with a Y.
What? Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about that. So if it's a what do you want to be known for? Is that the full
No,
sentence
for
with the
me, what matters, it
ah?
matters, especially in a world that's becoming more technology driven.
Mhm.
Everyone in business, it's human to human relationships.
Yeah.
Throughout all of the gaps that I've tried to plug and have bridged throughout my career, 3 things have kind of got me there. It's the self-awareness and having and learning the lessons, not twice, once, lesson learned, next, and taking the value from the lesson if it hasn't worked out. But the people, which is ironic, I am an introvert who set up a business about putting yourself out there, and people are something that I love. And human relationships that are nurtured and that are genuine will get you a lot further than not having them. So
Mm,
finding your communities, your networks, you don't just need one, you need many.
yeah.
And you need to nurture them, not just show up every time you need something.
Right. No one wants that friend.
No, lots of
So,
people block that friend.
oh my gosh. Uh-huh. Yeah, I know. So I'm curious, when you're talking about showing up, I love that you're an introvert that loves people, and I love that both of those things can be true, right? So some people can
Yeah.
have misconceptions about what an introvert actually is. You know, I learned live on one of these calls that I'm an ambivert. I didn't even know that word until one of these summits, and I was talking to a professional, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's I go out and then I need my recharging internally, but I get it from both, right?
Yeah.
So when you're with you for being speaking to introverts that are looking to build their professional corrections, what advice do you have to them for networking both online and in person?
You have to do it in environments, yes, I'll go into a room with thousands of people and I'm a forced ambivert at times because I have to be running a business. But I think it's the depth of relationships, not having relationships for the sake of it, which introverts won't tend to have anyway.
Mm,
But just knowing that it's okay. It's not this one size fits all. Just because the person over here is doing it in this way, there is
mhm,
nothing wrong about doing it in your way. We're all wired differently. And
right.
my client base, they're quite a neurodiverse crowd. Everyone has a different way of doing things. Even the work I do, the methodologies don't change, but
Mm,
the outcomes of the work has never once been the same because it's that kind of collection of life experience, stories, environment. It shapes every single one of us and it differentiates every single one of us from the
mm,
8 billion plus people that live on the planet today.
right.
Everyone is different. There is no right or wrong way to do this, but you do need people. As an introvert, you're not going to need as many people, but it's quality control.
Mm, yeah.
And it's also thinking about who's in your network today, like understanding that. What is the age group? What's the geographies? What is that gender split? Professional network versus personal network, academic network, maybe. But then fast forward to that big vision that you have for yourself. Do you need the same people or do you need other people? Because it is far easier to build a network incrementally than just wait till you get there and then try and build it once you're there.
Yeah.
So even if you're just adding one person a year for the next 10 years, but they're the right people, you've got 10 really valuable people for when you get there. And that value is mutually beneficial.
Mm. And speaking of incremental change, tell me about the 1 centimeter set. Tell me about the 1 centimeter rule. There we go. What is that?
So with positioning, never position yourself. If let's take a LinkedIn profile as an example. Never position yourself exactly where you are today. In a
Mm,
conversation with someone, never position yourself exactly where you are today. Once you've done the work and you know what that future version of you looks like, and maybe there's 2 or 3 different versions, you're not obliged to go into any of them when you get there, but that's what you're thinking today about the 10 years. Let's say it's something generic. So go with an author. Somebody wants to be an author and they haven't written a word. Today, they're at 0. Their 30 centimeters is an author. I personally would push and challenge that slightly and say, well, if you're going to do all of that, which is a lot, you may as well be a best-selling author, right? So
mm,
let's make that the biggest version, even though it may not seem possible today. Rather than not saying anything to anyone, 1 centimeter ahead looks like a conversation at a coffee machine where someone says, what were you doing at the weekend? And you say, I was doing this. And I was also thinking about this book that I'd like to write. The person now knows that. Whereas if you positioned exactly where you were at zero, nobody would know. If you put a post out on social media and you say, do I have any published authors in my network? I'm thinking of writing a book and I'd love to speak to people who have done it already. You don't actually want to speak to the people who have done it already, but everyone who sees that post now knows you're 30 centimeters, that
Mm,
bigger goal. If you do this with everything and it starts to become a mindset, you're always just seeding slightly ahead. Never go to 5 centimeters. It will feel like you're lying because you are. Just slightly ahead. You will find within a matter of weeks or months, take the author example, people will start to send you articles. They will start to send you, hey, did you see this place is looking for new authors? Did you see this writing competition? Did you see this course? And suddenly you'll go from pushing to pulling things towards you. So positioning is key, but knowing what that 30 centimeters is also key.
mm. So would you say when you're sowing those seeds for the future, you want people to know about your future self? You're not trying to present fully as that future self. What is that balance?
Yeah, so it's just, I'm thinking about, I'm considering doing this. Do you know anyone who I could talk to? Because this is an idea I have. I did this recently with refugee talent. And, can you help me get a job? Especially the British. It's like, oh, we don't know how to help. Like, we don't know what to do with that. But if
Mm,
you say, I'm thinking of putting an article together. I don't know where I'm going to publish it yet, but of all of the great networks that support people in getting jobs, suddenly they give you all the information. So it's just reframing slightly so that people know how to help. They know how to connect what they see, which they will be seeing stuff all day long back to you. And
mm.
you want to start pulling opportunities towards you rather than pushing and pushing and pushing to get the next thing.
Awesome. Sallee, I could talk to you all day. This was absolutely fantastic. We're sadly out of time. What's the best way for folks to stay connected with you?
I am the only person in the world with my name because I designed it that way. So even if you can't spell it, you can find me on LinkedIn. I can send you an audio note in response. That's probably the best way to find me.
I love an audio note. I use it every single day, 20 times a day. So,
I may send you one about video.
oh, great. Yeah, I look
Yeah,
forward to it. Yeah. We'll talk. All right.
fabulous.
Yeah, well, have a great rest of your night. And it
Thank,
was so lovely to have you here. I look forward to the next time we get to do it. Please come back. This was really great.
thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Sally. Bye now.